Welcome to a walkthrough of my PowerPoint presentation of The Legend of the Super Mario Brothers. This is not the story of the Super Mario Brothers. This is only what I used to think Super Mario Brothers was about, with some additional minor variation, a little bit of embellishments towards the end. I'm just going to read this outline. So, initial outline draft. This was the first paragraph I wrote, and then the rest of the slides are expanding on this. In the future of megaprojects, a visionary investor from the world's wealthiest persons list collaborates with a team of architects, engineers, and politicians to result in the construction of the superstructure. A mainframe of colossal proportions designed to be eventually populated as a single city which houses more people than had ever lived before, the superstructure initially was an enormous frame that reached into space and spanned much of a continent. It would allow for easy expansion and modification of structures and utilities such as roads, electricity, and plumbing as it gradually filled with inhabitants and rapidly developing technology. The superstructure was not always popular with everyone, and at times the opponents of the superstructure could become militant, sometimes even having plans to destroy it and everyone in it in order to return the Earth to a simpler ecology. Among this society of unrest, the average person worked for an average wage in an average but sometimes desperately essential jobs, with the survival of the inhabitants sometimes hinging on a single worker, such as a regular plumber. Mario and Luigi found themselves in a desperate race to hide first from the police, then from the militant unrest, leading them to be lost in the nether regions of an enormous drainage infrastructure. They there encounter newly evolved animals they had never imagined, including Yoshi the dinosaur, whose uncanny sense of danger and loving sense of loyalty first saves the Mario Brothers, then shows them how many people will die if the superstructure collapses, and finally pushes them to risk and ultimately sacrifice their lives to thwart a plan by Bowser to backfire the energy systems of the superstructure, which would result in the virtual obliteration of the world's peoples. Using their skills as plumbers, they move throughout the enormous high-technology meshed with low-technology environment, reaching the very bottom of the world as well as the reaches of space, until they finally lose Yoshi, who sacrifices himself to get them into position to restabilize the infrastructure before they die along with Bowser in a flood that is unavoidable if the superstructure is to be saved, as there is nowhere else for the water to go, and only they and Bowser would be where the flood would occur. So this presentation will not be in order. I am going to make slides as I am able to address the concepts casually in my mind. I may or may not try to reorder them, so you may need to move back and forth to see some semblance of order. So I will link the actual presentation on slideshare.net in the description below. How does Yoshi fit in? Yoshi is a dinosaur, but not in the paleontological sense of the term. In the future which the superstructure takes place, rapid animal evolution has resulted in large dinosaur-like animals. Not giant like real dinosaurs, but large like horses, etc. The superstructure is enormous and occupies much of a continent. The drainage system of this superstructure is filled with life just like city drainage is today, however on a much grander scale. It is better to imagine river systems than to imagine sewer systems, as the drainage system uses plants and ecology to naturally clean the water. What does the superstructure look like? The superstructure is not one single appearance, but fundamentally most of the world is suspended above the earth. Cities are connected to enormous beams that reach high into the atmosphere. Some parts of the superstructure actually have space elevators that reach into orbit. Although the population lives in spaces that seem like normal Earth, shopping malls, outdoor parks, streets with buildings, There are many places that remind of the exterior of Cloud City from Star Wars. It is possible to fall deadly distances in lots of places that workers might need to work. Not all of the superstructure is yet one city. There are many cities built onto the superstructure, connected by elevated highways connecting to the superstructure, as well as enormous areas where there are no buildings, and there are just visible superstructure beams over normal land. The story takes place long after the initial construction, but long before the structure becomes fully populated. How does Yoshi die? Yoshi plays a pivotal role because Yoshi is able to leap astounding distances compared to humans. Plumbers often have to leap and often break the rules to leap over deadly gaps to do their daily job. In the superstructure, no. And as such are also incredible jumpers for a human, but they do not compare to Yoshi, who is able to leap incredible distances even while Mario and Luigi are riding Yoshi. Yoshi is a very intelligent animal. Although Mario and Luigi would never have believed such an animal could exist, plenty of humans living in the nether regions of the superstructure do know the animals like Yoshi, and they have a cooperative community where the dinosaurs actually work together with homeless populations to stay hidden and well cared for. How does Yoshi die continued? During the climax of the story, Mario, Luigi, and Yoshi desperately run from one part of the superstructure to another in order to save the superstructure from Bowser. One trick they've figured out is Yoshi can leap while Mario and Luigi are on top. Then Mario and Luigi can leap from Yoshi to get extra reach. And then Yoshi can leap again without them and get to the same place as he is no longer carrying so much extra weight. They don't have time to realize it, but on a desperate double jump, Yoshi knows that he will not have a place to land after they go up, and will fall to his death. But Yoshi does not alert them to this because he knows there is no choice if the world is to be saved and does understand this abstract concept. He tricks them into making the leap during a split-second decision, only showing them where to grab and rushing them into the leap. Only once they've grabbed onto their target, for dear life as they dangle over an abyss, do they look back and understand what happened. They see Yoshi drop out of sight. Luigi nearly lets go in grief, but Mario consoles Luigi and says Yoshi knew, and surely they would be with their friend soon anyway, for they know that they will likely fail and the world will be lost. Why are plumbers so amazing? Such a massive superstructure would be an incredible feat of engineering. Energy systems, ventilation systems, and plumbing systems would be very complex and interactive. An accident could result in something as small as a toilet blowing water out for hours, or it could be as dramatic as entire city blocks flooding with water and killing everyone living there. The ventilation systems and the electrical systems were equally dangerous, and all of these jobs had amazing workers. Who are the homeless? The superstructure is enormous, and more people live in the superstructure than all of the world outside of the superstructure. Lots of people are unhappy with the government, and not everywhere in the superstructure has high technology. Lots of places are hidden from common society and are filled with people living at every technology level that ever existed. There are people who use spears and build fires, and although they know about the technology, they prefer their lifestyle. They live on the ground under cities or within enormous drainage infrastructure which is filled with rivers, trees, and forests in areas that are like humongous caves. Although these lifestyles are illegal, many people, including police, turn the other cheek as they do not judge others for these lifestyles and even find them to be amazing. Some movies to help imagine the underworld: Demolition Men, Total Recall, The Island of Dr. Moreau, Blade Runner, Gattaca. There are others, but I can't remember the names. Why are animals evolving so fast? Some of the animals are the result of genetic experiments. Some of the animals are the result of genetic experiments, and it is possible that experiments were conducted in clandestine operations by secret societies. It is also possible that some animals merely evolved quickly as a result of the extreme changes to the environment. The superstructure is much older than anyone living in it for the story. None of these crazy dinosaurs have officially documented origins, and the species that Yoshi is actually completely unknown to the overworld, even though people living in the underworld all know about them. There are many dinosaurs. It is also possible that Bowser is half turtle. Most of the dinosaurs in the story have intelligence like modern dogs and monkeys, with some having intelligence like Chewbacca. How will Bowser destroy everything? Similar to the concept of destroying the Death Star, Bowser will overload the energy systems of the superstructure with a feedback loop that results in a massive explosion of energy. Bowser will not use weapons, but will instead focus normal use energy into one place. The superstructure construction projects often lift enormous modules of cityscape to new heights, or new frames from the ground. This requires enormous amounts of energy to be cycled to the construction sites. By masking his terrorist attack as a construction project, Bowser will be able to overload a region without being suspected of foul play. Bowser destroys everything continued. The energy system of the superstructure is not as simple as a power plant and electrical wires. Look, I got a little spelling error. Is not as simple as a power plant and electrical wires. Energy is produced in many ways to include waste heat recovery using ventilation system, heat pumps to centralize waste heat, pumps that move water up and down and then generate power as water moves back down, giant batteries and high pressure containers, etc. Basically everything imaginable. By charging a variety of these systems at once and coordinating them properly, it is possible to consume enormous amounts of energy for single projects, such as lifting entire skyscrapers onto the superstructure, but there is serious danger of overload. How did the Mario Brothers win? They discover the plan to overload the power system, which also includes an enormous amount of water suspended over the planned area of overload. They find that it will be possible to release this water into a large area that would heat up in order to cool the area and disperse the energy safely before it reaches meltdown. A meltdown would mean enormous batteries exploding, high pressure tanks exploding, fuel exploding. A virtual sun would be formed. By keeping the temperatures below meltdown, it is possible for the superstructure crew to control the systems in time to move the energy away from hazardous centralization. However, it does mean that an enormous area would be flooded. How do they win continued? Luckily, in order for Bowser's plan to work, he had to conduct his operation in an area normally inhospitable. This area would be too dark to grow plants, so no homeless or other animals could ever live there. Under the largest city areas of the superstructure, the ground is a wasteland. There is no light, there is no water. Only enormous metal beams and pipes, empty maintenance structures, abandoned and inhospitable buildings, and frequent lethal changes in temperature, frequent unbreathable air, and other dystrophy. His plan was to result in a massive explosion by carrying out what would otherwise be normal construction in a new area, but by using criminal organizations and corruption to cover his clandestine operation and having everything happen in a different place than the government was aware of. In order to do this, it had to be centered on a place no one would go. This meant that when the Mario Brothers flooded the area, there was no one anywhere except for them and Bowser. Where's the princess? The princess is a world leader who is very compassionate. The princess is not a critical plot point for the action of the film, but as a representative of many ideals that allowed for the relative peace during such cultural divisions. The princess acts in good faith, believing in the general goodness of peoplekind. This allows for Bowser to become very powerful, but also allows for the Mario Brothers to exist. There does not need to be a princess for the story, but in order to explain how such a society can exist, the princess is helpful as a personality, knowingly turning a blind eye to so much. And that concludes the slides as they stand. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the video and try to upload it.